Today is Tuesday. Jerusalem is in a frenzy over yesterday's drama and commotion and controversy. But Jesus isn't done. He returns again to the temple on Tuesday, which was Monday's epicenter of commotion. And while yesterday was the day of destruction, today will be his day of instruction. The divine rabbi stands in the temple and he begins to teach. And the words of Jesus will instigate as much controversy as yesterday's violence. He can no longer be ignored. His actions on Monday, his teachings on Tuesday, have placed him front and center on the Passover week activities. And now everyone must decide what to do with him. You can reject this Jesus and his claims, or you can embrace this Jesus and his claims. But indifference is now off the table. The religious leaders of the day try their best to undermine him and stir up rejection. The wisest, the most educated, the best debaters of the day each take their turn trying to confound Jesus. Clearly, they are desperate to discredit this man, to gain back their religious stronghold, and to convince the masses that Jesus of Nazareth is not who he claims to be. But unfortunately for them, he actually is. And so every single one of their attempts only becomes an opportunity for Jesus to reinforce his claim and reestablish his identity. And Jesus tells them on that day a parable to explain why this is so and what is happening. Let me read that for you from Luke chapter 20. And he began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard and let it out to tenants, and went into another country for a long while. When the time came, he sent a servant to the tenants so that they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. He sent another servant, but they also beat and treated him shamefully and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent yet a third. This one also they wounded and cast out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him." But when the tenants saw him, they said to themselves, "This is the heir. Let us kill him, so that the inheritance might be ours." And they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When they heard this, they said, "Surely not." But he looked directly at them and said, "What then is this that is written? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." Every answer and every lesson that he gives on Tuesday shares a common theme, that the stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This is a quote from Psalm 118 that Jesus uses to describe himself. The imagery was very famous and very familiar to the audience. The cornerstone was the key to architecture and construction in that day. It was the focal point of the structure. It would bear the weight of all the other stones in the building, and so builders were very meticulous in choosing this stone, rejecting many stones after another, because they were not worthy to be the cornerstone of the structure. Everything Jesus said on that day conveyed the same thing. You reject me, but I will become the cornerstone of all things. All who reject Jesus will severely regret that choice, because in the end they will discover that he is the only thing that can bear the weight of their lives, their hopes, longings, desires, identity, and most certainly their salvation. Conversely, all who embrace Jesus will never regret that choice, because they will discover in him the one thing that can hold them and not fail. This was his claim. And then what Jesus taught in the temple that day, he would soon demonstrate. In 3 days, he would become the ultimate display of rejection. Rejected by man, forsaken by the Father upon the cross, and yet the discarded one, the rejected one, would then rise from the ashes of his own rejection and on Easter morning take his rightful place as the cornerstone of all existence. Centuries have passed since that Tuesday, and he is still as divisive as he was that day in the temple. The reasons, the argumentation, the accusations against him, these change with the tides of culture. And yet for centuries, just like on that Tuesday, he continues to confound them all. And yet even still his rejection continues. To this day, so many fail to recognize him for who he is, and the cornerstone continues to be rejected. Humanity searches in vain for a stone that can bear the weight of their desperate needs, but there is no other stone. Only Jesus, the chief cornerstone. But those who embrace what is foolish and cast off by so many others have found their rock, the cornerstone of their life and salvation. They that trust in the despised and rejected one have discovered the unshakable fortress of the true cornerstone. So listen, indifference is off the table. Jesus is simply too significant to ignore any longer. And so today you face the same challenge that was before the people on that Tuesday. To reject the stone of Jesus is to choose destruction. To embrace the stone of Jesus is to choose protection. Choose wisely what you will do with this stone.